Wealth without peace is a luxury cell, plush carpet covering the cold floor of a soul at war. And the cruelest part? No one sees it, because the prison of the rich looks like success. The suffering of those who made it is ignored, as if a fat bank account could anesthetize existential emptiness. But there's something you only learn too late. Accumulating without resting is just another form of despair, a hunger disguised as ambition, a fear wrapped in metrics. And the more you acquire, the more you realize you're surrounded, not by comfort, but by absence. Because nothing is lonelier than being applauded for a character you created to hide. They taught us that freedom comes with money, that peace is the side effect of ownership, that success means the pain is over, but it isn't. Some of the most miserable people I've met could buy anything, except silence. They had homes but no sleep, busy calendars but no presence, recognition but no sense of who they were. The truth is brutal. The system sells wealth as salvation, but often it's just a new cage, with more distractions and fewer excuses. Because when you make it and still feel the void, there's no one left to blame. Picture a $1 million penthouse, glass windows overlooking the abyss. Inside, a man at the table, surrounded by his victories, chewing tasteless food. On his phone, applause. In his chest, static. No one dares ask if he's happy. They assume he should be. But he knows. And the silence that meets him each night knows too. The peace that never arrived was never for sale, and the freedom promised by success never came. Because wealth that doesn't free is just a disguise, and no disguise can carry the weight of a meaningless life. Why now? Because we're drowning in performance gurus, hustle culture, and polished lives. But behind the filters, billionaires in burnout, millionaires in despair, executives imploding in silence. The collapse of peace is the new price of productivity. If you don't stop and question what you call winning, you'll pay with your soul for a hollow trophy. Why me? Because I believed it too. I ran, I conquered, I stacked. And only too late did I realize, wealth without peace isn't freedom. It's prison without bars. And worse, I built every single wall myself. Achievement screams, peace whispers. That's why so many confuse noise with fulfillment. You can pack your schedule, multiply your income, stack your titles, and still be a desert with Wi-Fi. Because there's a kind of silence money can't buy. The one that looks you dead in the eyes at 3 a.m. and asks without mercy, "What was all this for?" That's when the character starts to crumble. The suit loses its shine. The applause echoes in the void, and you realize you're at war with everything you built. The system teaches you to run, to scale, to win. But it never teaches you how to rest, how to be without performing. You become a machine, efficient, polished, anxious. And the worst part? You start confusing productivity with identity. You think you only deserve to exist if you're earning, proving, achieving. But the soul doesn't obey that tempo. It begs for slowness, silence, presence. And when you refuse, it rebels. Through insomnia, panic, illness. Diagnoses they call psychosomatic, but that are just the body screaming truths your mouth never could. You normalize the tension, call the tight jaw stress, live with a compressed chest and empty eyes. And because you're successful, no one questions it, so you keep going. But inside, you're dimming. Because no bank account can buy back the parts of you sold to get there. And by the time you notice, your life is just a profitable sequence of empty gestures. Then silence comes. And with it, truth. And the truth is this: you don't need more. You need peace. And peace doesn't come from what you win. It comes from what you're willing to stop chasing. From the courage to lose the persona and recover the person. Ambition is a blade. It can cut chains or carve wounds that never heal. It all depends on who wields it. But the system made sure to place this blade in wounded hands. It taught us to sever our ties to what matters, to sacrifice our breath in exchange for badges. It turned ambition into addiction, a relentless chase, camouflaged as growth. And the higher you climb, the more you lose your footing. Because each step costs you time, health, relationships, joy. Until one day you look back and realize you've left yourself behind. You learn to romanticize exhaustion, to call it drive. You wear your lack of sleep like a trophy. Busyness becomes a badge. And when someone suggests slowing down, the reflex is laughter. Rest is for the weak. But flight without landing is just a longer fall. Most only realize this when their body breaks, their mind fractures, and their heart cries for help beneath a polished suit and practiced smile. The system profits from your unrest. It doesn't want you to arrive, and it wants you to chase. Because endless desire is infinite fuel, and modern captivity doesn't use chains. It uses milestones, bonuses, metrics. You think you're advancing, but you're just spinning inside a gilded cage. Every win unlocks a new demand. Every success breeds a fresh dependency. You become a hostage to your own momentum, and here's the most perverse twist. You begin to feel guilty for wanting to stop, as if rest were betrayal, as if wanting less meant failure. But it's not. It's clarity. It's awakening. It's the beginning of freedom. Because only those poisoned by excess can truly appreciate the taste of stillness, the quiet of a life that doesn't scream, the breath that finally doesn't rush. At some point, real wealth is no longer about what you gain. It's about what you're willing to release. Renunciation, in a culture addicted to achievement, is an act of sacred rebellion. It's looking at the offer, the deal, the big opportunity, and saying no. Quietly, clearly, powerfully. Because in that no, you rescue something vital. A piece of time, a corner of peace, a breath you no longer want to trade for applause. The system will call it weakness, laziness, fear. It will parade those still chasing, show you their numbers, their flights, their curated smiles. But what it won't show you is the cost, the ulcers, the panic, the broken relationships, the hollow eyes behind designer lenses. Because suffering doesn't sell. Gloss does. But deep down, something in you starts to whisper, there has to be another way. And maybe, just maybe, it starts by subtracting. So you begin to clean closets, calendars, conversations. Tasks that once felt urgent now feel invasive. Roles you wore with pride now feel like chains. You start to breathe, not because you've made it, but because you've stopped selling yourself to the narrative. In that open space, something rare emerges. Silence becomes friend. Stillness becomes sacred. And your voice, once buried under deadlines, starts to speak again. Soft, but alive. Renunciation is not quitting. It's choosing. It's declaring that your peace is worth more than a line on a resume. That being is worth more than appearing. That feeling is worth more than flaunting. Living with less becomes living with everything. Because peace isn't the absence of problems, and it's the presence of meaning. And meaning can't be bought, only remembered. In the quiet, when you finally stop running. You know you've changed when what once excited you now feels heavy. The lights, the titles, the applause, all too loud, too sharp, too hollow. You start saying no, not out of rebellion, but out of reverence, because deep down, you finally understand. Performance costs presence, and you've spent enough of your soul trying to impress the world. Real wealth becomes something else. It's drinking coffee in silence, leaving a room without needing to explain, saying no calmly without guilt, watching the sky without a schedule, reading slowly, breathing deeply, needing less. You no longer crave approval. You crave alignment. You no longer seek recognition. You seek reality. And that's when it all shifts. Because you're no longer reacting. You're responding from a place of wholeness. But be ready. The world will try to pull you back. It will whisper you're falling behind. It will flash old dreams in new disguises. It will weaponize your old ambition. But you've seen the price. You've tasted the poison. And you no longer confuse speed with direction. You don't want more. You want meaning. You don't want louder. You want true. This new way of living has no spotlight, but it has roots. It doesn't bring trophies, but it brings peace. And slowly, you see the truth. Everything they promised you out there was quietly waiting inside, buried beneath the noise. Wealth now is knowing what you no longer need. It's walking lightly, sleeping deeply, loving slowly, and finally, belonging. Not to an image, but to yourself. Freedom didn't come with the money. It came with the pause, the surrender, the quiet, invisible decision. I don't need this to exist anymore. That's when something sacred began. The world stopped being your compass, and your truth, long buried, began to speak. A voice you hadn't heard in years. Faint but clear. You already are. Because wealth without peace is betrayal. It's slavery with a contract. It's a polished form of death. But when you stop selling pieces of yourself for status, you begin to return home. And that home isn't a place, it's a rhythm. It's breath, it's presence. You move slower, you speak less, you smile for no reason, and that's enough. You no longer seek the next thing, you protect the now. You're not here to convince. You're here to be, to belong to what's real, to walk the earth without performing. And that is sacred. That is dangerous. Because a person who doesn't need anything can't be controlled. If this video whispered truth into your silence, leave a mark. Write in the comments one thing you're ready to let go of. Share this ritual with someone still trapped in the noise, and subscribe if you're done chasing and ready to remember what really matters. The most profitable prison in the world is success without peace, and the only escape is silence.